So in this tutorial I'm going to show you how to integrate a table in Microsoft Word 2010 for Windows. So I've just got my general text here in my document. It's double spaced and I want to add a table between these two paragraphs. So I start a new line, and to insert the table I'm just going to click Insert here, and I'm going to come over to the Table tab in the ribbon. So I'm going to click Table. This allows me to choose the relative size of the table I want to add, so I'm going to do a 4 by 3. Okay, so I've got my 4 by 3 table, but one thing you should understand is that your table inherits the formatting from the rest of the document. So right now my table is double spaced and I don't want that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come back over here to the Home tab. After highlighting all the cells in my table, I'm going to click on this item here in Paragraph in the ribbon, and I'm going to choose single spacing. Notice that crushed my table back down, but that's okay. We can go ahead and alter that in just a little bit. So what I'm going to start doing first and foremost is I'm going to start laying out my table. So I want to give some titles to this header row here. I'm going to do the time in minutes of your temperature experiment, and then I want to do 0 degrees Celsius, and I want to talk about the glucose that was produced in your lactose tube in milligrams per deciliter. I want to do 25 degrees Celsius glucose milligrams per deciliter, and then I want to do 40 degrees Celsius glucose in milligrams per deciliter. Okay, now you'll recall that you did more than just these 3 points. So I need to add some additional columns to this table. So that's real easy. You're just going to come up here to Table Tools, and you're going to click Layout, and you're going to click Insert Right to insert columns to the right. So I'm going to add 3 more columns. Okay, so that's 60 degrees glucose milligrams per deciliter, 80 degrees Celsius glucose milligrams per deciliter, and finally 100 degrees Celsius glucose milligrams per deciliter. Now you'll notice that those 3 new columns I added are not the same size. Okay, and that's a problem. Okay, if I want to make all of my columns the same width, all I have to do is highlight these columns and then come up here and click Distribute Columns. Now you'll notice that it didn't do it for the ones below it. So if I'm going to want my whole table to be nice and uniform, I need to highlight the whole table and click Distribute Columns. And now I have equal width for all of my columns, but not equal height for all of my rows. So the same thing, all of my rows are highlighted now. I just come up here and click Distribute Rows. And now I have a table that has an equal amount of height and width for the columns and rows. The next thing I want to do, I want to take care of this row here, which is superfluous. I realized I just need this row, I don't need this additional one. So all I have to do is click here on this row to highlight it all the way across, and then I'm going to come up here to delete, click on it, and I'm going to choose Delete Rows. And that deletes the entire row just like that. Alright, so the next thing I want to do, I want to format these cells. I want them to be bold, and I also want them to be aligned in the center. So let's go ahead and do the alignment first. So I've highlighted all of these. I want to have centered alignment both vertically and horizontally. And to do that, I'm just going to come up here to Alignment under the Layout tab in the Tables part of the ribbon. And I'm going to click on this center icon here to align everything in the center. There we go. Then, to make these bold, I can either just use the keyboard shortcut to do it, which I believe is Control B, or I can just come in here in the Home tab of the ribbon and click the B to make them bold. Alright, so now I'm going to add in some of the data. So I type in 10 there for 10 minutes. For the glucose here, let's say I made 250, let's say 500, 1000, let's do 250, and then finally let's do 0. Okay, now if I choose to center these again, I'm just going to highlight all of the cells in this row, come back over here to Table 2 Tools Layout in the ribbon, and again I'm going to choose Align Center. Alright, so my figure is looking pretty good, but it's missing something. All figures need to have a figure legend. And so the thing I'm going to do first is I'm going to want to put some kind of figure legend down here below this. Now some students choose to do this by trying to add in an additional sentence. And the problem is if you're double spacing and all of that and you move stuff around in your document, it's going to have an effect on the placement of that figure legend in regards to your table. A much easier solution and a better solution to this, I think, really is to add in a text box, because then you can freely move the text box wherever it needs to go, and it might not always necessarily be tied to the table. Okay, so I'm going to come over here to Insert. I'm going to choose Text Box. Okay, and I'm just going to choose a simple text box. And I'm going to type Figure 1. And I'm going to do determining optimal temperature of lactase. Okay, I'm going to drag on the left hand side here to increase the width. I'm going to decrease the height, and then I'm going to move it over here. Okay, now if I don't want this text box to have any effect on the placement of the rest of the text in the figure, I can go up here to Home. I can go to Format with Drawing Tools. I can choose Wrap Text, and I can choose In Front of Text, which is the preset definition for this. Okay, now you can also edit a couple of other things in regards to the text box. Right now it's got a border. If I decide that I don't want a border or outline, I just choose None, okay, or White from Theme, okay, right there under Shape Outline. And then let's say I just want to make the figure bold, so I can again do the shortcut on the keyboard, or I can come back up here to Home and choose Bold. Alright, so I now have my table and my legend that goes along with it. If I choose to move the table, while it does give you the option to grab and drag, I personally prefer to select the entire table and cut it, and then just simply choose where else in the document I would prefer to add it in. And then I can simply place the table wherever I want it to be inside the document. In terms of your text box, you can just move it down to match up with your table if you want to. Delete this line, that'll move the table up, and it moves the text box up as well. So there you have it. That's the creation and generation of a table figure in a document of Microsoft Word 2010. I hope this has been helpful.